Hello, glad to see you on my channel. I really value it. And today I want to share with you a wonderful story. It's a dramatic story that will come as a total shock to everybody. It is a really amazing story. So enjoy watching it.
Hello, hi Mom. How are you? Harvey asked after getting through to his mother. Hi son, we're fine. My father is still at work, and I just got home and will cook dinner, Selena replied. Oh, I wouldn't mind a hot and home-cooked meal either, replied the son, who hadn't eaten anything home-cooked for a week because his wife was in the hospital. So why don't you come and visit us? I think your father would be glad to have you over, said the mother, inviting Harvey over. No, I can't, and Leslie and the baby are being discharged from the hospital tomorrow, so I'll eat at home. Tomorrow? That's great. We'll finally see our granddaughter, said the woman who has been dreaming about the birth of a granddaughter for several years. Yes, that's why I'm calling. Could you come over tomorrow so we can go as a family? I want to meet Leslie beautifully and drive them and the baby home in comfort, asked Harvey, temporarily left without a car. Okay, we'll stop by. What time do you plan to go to the hospital? The mother asked. Leslie says I should be there by 11 o'clock, so I should leave sometime after 10 o'clock. Great, we'll be free at that time. The main thing is to buy everything today, so that tomorrow you don't have to run around the city looking for flowers and champagne, Selena replied, reminding him of what he needed to buy for his wife's graduation. Well, flowers I understand, but why champagne? You know that Leslie does not drink at my place, asked Harvey, surprised, obviously not knowing the hospital traditions. Fool, and the medical staff, how do you want to thank you? Prepare an envelope, candy, and a bottle, answered Mom, explaining that you cannot go to the maternity hospital empty-handed. I understand. Okay, I'll buy everything, replied the young father, and having finished talking to his mother, ran to the nearest store, then went to a flower store to choose a neat and beautiful bouquet, able to please his wife, who gave him a daughter. Deciding to have a good rest before the big day, Harvey went to bed early. Upon arriving at the birth center, the man called his wife first to let her know that he and his parents were waiting for her downstairs. Harvey wanted to go upstairs, but Leslie said it was not necessary as they had already packed and would be out any minute. Noticing his wife on the threshold of the building, the man with a bag and a bouquet of flowers ran towards his beloved. The midwife, who came out after Leslie with a baby in her arms, congratulated Harvey, who became a young father. After giving the bouquet to his wife and the package to the midwife, the man took his daughter in his arms for the first time and began to look closely at her delicate face and small hands. Looking into the blue eyes of the baby, Harvey seemed to dissolve and drown in them as in the ocean, because she was very similar to Leslie. Let us look at the granddaughter, said Victor, standing a few steps behind his son. God, how beautiful she is, Selena said enthusiastically, seeing her for the first time. That's right, just like me, Victor joked, admiring the little girl. Yes, of course. I think she looks more like me, replied Harvey's mother, looking at her granddaughter's features. Stop arguing. You can see that she is an exact copy of Leslie, said Harvey, stopping arguments between father and mother. Come on, I don't think she looks just like me, Leslie replied, embarrassed. So why are we still here? Everyone was thanked. Our beauties were met. It's time to go home, Victor said, realizing that they couldn't leave their seats for a few minutes, admiring the baby. The father was right. It was time to go. Harvey supported the father and suggesting to go home. Let the women get into the car first, continuing to hold the baby in his arms. Arriving at the driveway of her rented apartment, Leslie was the first to get out of the car to take her daughter into her arms. Thank you for meeting us and giving us a ride home, Leslie said, thanking her husband's parents. You're welcome, Victor replied kindly. Yes, you don't have to thank us, because we wanted to see the baby too. She is magical and we are happy to be grandparents at last. Selena supported her husband's words. How about you come to our house on Saturday? Leslie asked, inviting the parents-in-law to visit. I'm not sure it will work out. I had some other plans, Victor said, remembering the work that he had put off for later several times. I thought that we could gather around the table and spend time together to celebrate the birth of the baby. Besides, I invited my mom and thought we'd be one big family, Leslie replied in frustration. realizing that her father-in-law wanted to decline the invitation. "We'll definitely be there. We'll be there after 3, Selena replied, giving her husband a stern look, as if she was condemning him for trying to find an excuse or a reason not to come. Yes, we will," Victor answered quickly, supporting his wife. Seeing her stern look, he realized that it was better not to argue, and the work should be postponed or done as soon as possible. "That's good. Then on Saturday we are waiting for you at our place," said Leslie, and entrusting her husband with a bag of things, went home with the baby. "Don't be late," said Harvey, and having said goodbye to his parents, hurried after his wife. Once in the apartment, Leslie immediately went to the crib to put the baby and lull her to sleep. As soon as her daughter fell asleep, the young mother hurried to the kitchen to prepare dinner and finally treat her husband to something delicious, hot and homemade. Having allocated a few minutes in the process of cooking, Leslie called her mom to invite her to visit. "Hey Mom, how are you? What are you doing?" Leslie inquired upon hearing her mother's voice. "Hi daughter. Yes, just recently returned from the station. Now a little rest and I'll go to the kitchen to cook." "And how are you? Still in the hospital?" answered Catherine, from early morning selling homemade baked goods near the railroad station to at least provide for themselves. "No, Harvey took me home already. The baby is resting, and I'm preparing lunch to please my favorite something delicious," replied her daughter. "That's good, that's right," supported the aspiration of her daughter's mother, who always reminds Leslie that a man needs to pay attention and care. "What are your plans for the weekend?" Leslie asked. "And what plans can I have? I will trade. On Saturday there is usually a capital train. Then I can make a good profit," answered the mother, who knows that on this day she earns several times more than on any other day. "Would you rather come to us? I would like to see my granddaughter, and we are organizing a family dinner," noting the appearance of the baby, said Leslie, inviting her mother to visit. "Well, if such an occasion, I will definitely come," the woman replied, realizing that it is inconvenient to refuse her daughter's invitation. A couple of days later, the first guests begin to appear in Stone's house. Deciding to organize a quiet family evening, Leslie and Harvey invited Aha! And you can also Vasilisa ironically commented on the option of daughter-in-law Selena. "If you don't like Maria, then let it be Natalie." Victor again inserted his 5 kopecks. "Dad, are you sure you know names?" Harvey asked with mockery in his voice, surprised at his father's ideas. "Let's call the baby Ariana." "That's what I wanted to call Leslie, but my husband decided otherwise, and I didn't want to contradict him. Then I conceded. Maybe at least now someone will listen to me," quietly said Catherine, realizing that her option is unlikely to approve. I like it." "Ariana is a good option," said Harvey, supporting the idea of his mother-in-law. "Yes, really like?" Surprised and with a note of disbelief asked Catherine. "Yes, it's really not a bad option," Victor replied, also supporting his mother-in-law's suggestion. "So let's stop at the option of Ariana, or anyone else has any ideas?" asked Leslie, realizing that there are no disputes about this name. "Well, if you don't want to listen to me, you can call it Ariana," answered Selena, who wanted to insist on her option, but realized that no one would support it. "It is decided, so our daughter will be called Ariana," Harvey decided, stopping the discussion. Having discussed less important and significant issues, Victor noticed that it was already late enough and hurrying his wife, reminded that he had a lot of things to do. After saying goodbye to his in-laws, children, and granddaughter, the family left for home. As soon as the parents left, Harvey went to the baby girl to play with her, without disturbing his wife and mother-in-law in the kitchen. Deciding to help her daughter a little, Catherine cleared the table and started washing dishes. Realizing that the first time after the appearance of the child is the most difficult, the woman offered her help. Leslie did not hesitate and gladly accepted her mother's offer, asking her to stay at least a couple of weeks. In the evening, Catherine took care of the baby, bathing Ariana for the first time. The girl was crazy about water procedures and splashed as if she did not want to get out. Having returned the child to Leslie to feed the baby, the newfound grandmother returned to the kitchen and called a neighbor to warn about the long absence and ask her to look after the household. After giving her recommendations and telling her where the house key was hidden, the woman went to the bedroom to talk to her son-in-law and ask if he wanted to have dinner. Discovering that Harvey was hungry, Catherine hurried back to the kitchen to make tea and sandwiches. Woken in the middle of the night by her granddaughter screaming, Catherine hurried to the crib to take the baby in her arms and soothe her before her daughter and son-in-law woke up. Grabbing Ariana and holding her close, the woman went to the kitchen and, closing the door behind her, began to lull the child to sleep, singing lullabies sung by her mother. Having spent with the baby until the morning, Catherine put her granddaughter to bed and, realizing that there was no point in going to bed, returned to the kitchen to prepare breakfast. "Good morning. Why are you up so early?" asked a surprised Harvey, who woke up at 6 in the morning to get ready for work. "Good morning. Ariana didn't sleep well. Then I soothed her, and in general, I'm used to waking up early. Are you going to have breakfast?" my mother-in-law said, offering breakfast. "Yes, I'll take a shower and come back," Harvey replied. "Good, and I'll just make coffee," said Catherine, realizing that her day today will start with strong coffee. A few minutes later, the son-in-law came to the kitchen and, having eaten breakfast, thanked his mother-in-law for delicious and, no less importantly, healthy food. "Thank you, it was delicious. I didn't wake Leslie up. As soon as she wakes up, you can tell her that I'm at a new site today, so I may be late." "Okay, I'll tell her. Good luck in there." "Thank you. I think I'll need her today," Harvey replied, and seeing that it was almost 7 in the morning, hurriedly ran off to work. After washing the dishes and preparing breakfast for Leslie, Catherine went to her daughter's bedroom to wake her up since it was almost 8. "Good morning, Leslie. Wake up. We have a lot to do today," said Mom, gently disturbing her daughter. "Good morning, Mom. 5 more minutes, and I get up," replied the young mother, waking up and getting out of bed, which did not want to. "Well, you are just like in school days," with a smile noted Catherine, continued to insist that Leslie got up. Okay, I'm getting up. I'm sorry, I'm just very tired and realize that there are no less easy days, weeks and months ahead," replied Leslie, realizing that motherhood is not only a new, but also a very responsible stage in her life. "It's okay, you'll get through it, and I'll help wherever possible. I propose to start with breakfast, and then let's go for a walk. Ariana needs fresh air," said Catherine, and, inviting her daughter to the kitchen, went to the crib to check the baby and her diaper. After breakfast, Leslie bathed the baby and changed her diaper, after which they packed up to go to the nearest park for a walk. In the evening, Leslie and Catherine never took a step away from Ariana, enjoying every movement and smile of the baby. Harvey stayed late at work, coming home only close to midnight. Strongly tired at the new facility, the man did not take time for his daughter and went to bed, as in the morning he again needs to work to provide not only for himself and his wife, but also for his newborn daughter. A week later, the doorbell rang in Stone's apartment. Catherine, after putting the baby back in her crib, headed to the door to see who had come to see them. "Hello, who are you to whom?" asked the grandmother, having met on the threshold a pretty woman with a suitcase. "Good morning. My name is Emma. I'm a district nurse," the strange woman replied. "You must be here to see Ariana." "Yes, I need to check on the baby." "Come in," Catherine replied politely, inviting the woman into the house. Having taken off her outer clothes, the district nurse followed the grandmother to the crib. Seeing the baby girl and asking to transfer her to the changing table, the woman examined the girl and conducted several duty procedures. "Well, all is well?" asked Catherine, worried about the condition of her granddaughter. "Yes, deviations I did not notice. How does she eat? Often wakes up at night?" Emma asked. "She eats great. I have not noticed any special problems. She doesn't wake up much at night, except when she wants a refill." "Hello," greeted the stranger Leslie when she heard voices in the next room. "Hello, I'm your district nurse. My name is Emma," the woman replied, introducing herself as Ariana's mother. "Pleased to meet you," Leslie replied. "Do you do any exercise?" the nurse asked. "Yes, of course." "That's good, but I also recommend it to be outside more often, so that the baby breathes fresh oxygen." "Well, we will certainly listen to your recommendations," replied Catherine, who was just about to go for a walk with her granddaughter. "Good. That this examination is over, I will visit you in a week," replied Emma, and, having said goodbye to the mother and grandmother of the baby, left the apartment. "Are you going for a walk with Ariana, or should I pack?" Leslie asked her mother. "I was just about to go for a walk. so you do the housework and prepare something to eat, and we'll be back in an hour, answered Catherine, and having prepared the stroller, went with the baby to the park near the house. Listening to her mother, Leslie hurried to the kitchen to prepare dinner, and looking out the window, noticed that her mother and Ariana were just coming home. In the evening, Harvey returned from work, and when he heard about the visit of the district nurse, he did not react in any way, for he was very tired at the construction site. After talking to his wife and kissing Ariana, the man went to the kitchen to have dinner after a hard day's work. "Have you been drinking?" Catherine asked, having heard the unpleasant smell of alcohol from his son-in-law. "Yes, allowed himself a couple of shots." "Why?" replied Harvey, not hiding that a little drunk with colleagues in a bar nearby. "Don't you think that's not quite right? There's a small child in the house, and I wouldn't want her breathing that stuff," replied the caring grandmother. "And it seems to me that it's none of your business," sharply replied the man, not wanting to continue the dialogue. "Okay, let it be so," said Catherine, and leaving Harvey in the kitchen, went to her daughter and granddaughter. "How is Harvey? Is he very tired?" Leslie asked her mother. "I think he's already had a rest. You can go to him, and I'll stay with Ariana," said the woman, not wanting to tell about Harvey's rudeness. "Okay," replied Leslie, and leaving the baby to her mother, went to the kitchen to her husband to talk to him and discuss plans for the next weekend. "Well, has your mom had time to complain about me?" Harvey asked, seeing his wife. "What do you mean?" "What do you mean?" Leslie asked with incomprehension. "I mean that I had a couple of drinks after work. She looked at me as if I had committed some crime," replied the husband. "No, she didn't say anything to me." "Why did you drink?" "You know that my mother has a negative attitude towards it," replied Leslie. "It's none of her business. I do what I think is right." "Better tell me, when will she finally leave?" asked sullen Harvey, tired of his mother-in-law visiting him at home. "I don't know, maybe in a week," answered the wife. "No, I don't like that. Talk to her, so that in a couple of days she will not be here," sharply replied the husband, who was tired of living together with his mother-in-law. "Why would you do that?" "She is helping me with Ariana." Leslie tried to object, defending her mother. "You stay at home, and therefore you have to cope with the child yourself." "No one helped my mom, and it's okay. She was able to bring me up a normal person," continued to bend his line Harvey. The couple did not suspect that Catherine heard all this, as together with the baby went to the bathroom to bathe her granddaughter. Hearing everything from the first to the last word, the woman realized that she was superfluous here and her son-in-law was tired of her presence. Deciding not to create a conflict situation, Catherine realized that she had to leave, and as soon as possible. Waking up early in the morning, the woman began to pack her suitcase, putting her things. Hearing a noise in the next room, Leslie woke up, and seeing her mother, was very surprised that she was going somewhere without saying a word to her. "Good morning, Ma. Where are you going?" Leslie asked. "Hi, sweetie. The neighbor called, said that she had to leave and look after the house will not be able to, so I need to go back," Catherine replied, realizing that the truth she cannot say. "It's a pity. I thought you would stay with us a little longer," replied her daughter, trying not to remember yesterday's unpleasant conversation with her husband. "I hope so too. But as you can see, the plans have changed. Do not worry. As soon as the opportunity arises, I will come to you again," the woman replied, calming the worried daughter. "Okay, it's a deal. Can you wait until Harvey wakes up and give you a ride to the station?" Leslie asked, trying to help her mother with a heavy bag. No, I shouldn't. I have a train in a couple of hours, so I'll order a cab," replied Catherine, who did not really want to communicate with her son-in-law. Kissing her granddaughter goodbye and hugging Leslie, the woman left the apartment. Having ordered and waited for a cab, she left for the station and, having bought a ticket for the nearest train, went to her home. Waking up, Harvey was greatly surprised that his mother-in-law left so quickly, but was even more happy about it, because no one would no longer tell him how to do the right thing and what he did wrong. Continuing to educate his daughter, Leslie does not notice how several months pass. Returning after work, Harvey reminds his wife that in a few days he has a birthday and it would be nice to organize a festive dinner to which he can invite his parents. Listening to her spouse, Leslie promises to prepare everything because she is always happy to have guests and her husband's birthday is a special holiday. Taking some money from Harvey, Leslie combined a walk with the baby and shopping, taking in the supermarket everything necessary for a festive dinner. A couple of days at the stove came to an end because in a few hours her husband's parents would appear on the doorstep of the apartment. Having picked out a dress for the baby, Leslie heard that her husband came home and not alone, but together with her father and mother. "Hello, darling. Once again, congratulate you on your birthday," said Leslie, meeting on the doorstep of her husband, whom she congratulated in the morning. "Hi, thank you. We'd arrived a little earlier than planned, but I hope you are ready," he replied. "Yes, of course," replied the wife, and after greeting her husband's parents, she hurried into the kitchen to finish setting the table. "It smells so good, I'm going to go crazy," Victor said once in the kitchen. "I hope you like it," Leslie replied kindly, inviting Victor and Selena to the table. Soon, the culprit of the celebration, who hadn't heard his wife's request to take his daughter with him, also arrived in the kitchen. Excused for a few moments, Leslie picked up Ariana and returned to the kitchen to celebrate her husband's birthday with her family. "Thank you, Leslie. Everything is delicious," Selena remarked, thanking her sister-in-law for the delicious dinner. "You're welcome. I'm very glad you enjoyed it," Leslie replied, a little embarrassed. "Well, shall we say it now or a little later?" Victor asked his wife. "What are you talking about?" Harvey asked, having heard his father's words. Nothing," the man answered fearfully. "Come on, I think we can talk about our decision. Son, my father and I have thought about it and decided that it's time for you to get your own place. You're already an established family with a new addition, so you deserve to live in your own apartment," said Selena, shocking her son and Leslie. "I don't get it. You want to give us an apartment?" Harvey asked in surprise, taking a few seconds to realize all that his mother had said. "Well, not exactly, but you're partly right. My father and I decided that we were of age and didn't need much. We're trading in our 2-bedroom apartment, and hopefully we can get 2 smaller ones." "Oh God, are you kidding?" Almost crying from happiness asked Leslie, not believing that all this is reality. "No, we are serious," Victor answered proudly, seeing the joyful face of his daughter-in-law. "Thank you so much. This is the most generous gift we could never have dreamed of," said Leslie, jumping up from the table to hug her parents. "You've surprised me. It's really an unexpected surprise," Harvey admitted, also thanking his parents for their generous gesture. The next day after the family dinner, the Stones went from words to deeds and, meeting with a realtor, reported their desire. The man turned out to be an acquaintance, so he quickly found several interesting options, allowing them to choose one of them. As a result of the exchange, Victor and Selena moved to the outskirts in a cozy 1-room apartment, and Leslie and Harvey gave a modest 1-bedroom apartment in the city center, in need of a small cosmetic repair. Harvey, a lifelong construction worker, immediately after moving in, assessed the scope of work and made a rough estimate. Settling into the new apartment, the young family began to organize it. Having decided that special attention should be paid to the children's room, Harvey and Leslie set about renovating the room, choosing environmentally safe and natural materials. In just a week, they turned a shabby room into a cozy nest for Ariana, able to please her for many years. Leslie is genuinely happy with the results and, despite the lack of experience in repair, did everything to help her husband and turn dreams into reality, creating not only a beautiful, but also comfortable, practical housing for their daughter. With the first days of summer, Harvey comes home after work completely out of sorts. Noticing this, Leslie did not dare to immediately ask her husband about what happened, and having prepared dinner, poured a shot of white water to Harvey, a little relaxed. Noticing that the spouse picked up and spread in a smile from the delicious food, Leslie decided to talk. As it turned out, Harvey's team was hired to build a country cottage, but he refused because he has a young daughter. "So why did you refuse?" Surprised asked Leslie, not understanding her husband's decision. "And how else? Construction will last at least a couple of months, and maybe more," Harvey replied, explaining the reason for the refusal. "So what? We would perfectly well cope with 2 with a baby," replied the wife, realizing that her husband can make a good profit on the construction of a country cottage. "I do not know. I'm not sure about it, and I cannot so," doubting his decision, replied the man. "Call and agree. It's a great opportunity to earn, and if you are afraid to leave us alone, we can go to my mom. Fresh air is good for Ariana, Especially there is healthy food and delightful nature. So we will be like at a resort, and you will not worry, replied Leslie, finally convincing her husband. Okay, you're right, Harvey replied and took out his phone and started calling his colleague. Wait a minute, can you say that you'll be a few days late and join them a little later? Leslie asked. Why? You just convinced me to go, and now you're stopping me. You'll go just a little later. In case you haven't forgotten, Ariana is 1 year old the day after tomorrow, and I wanted us to celebrate the day as a family, my wife replied, explaining her request. That's right, I completely forgot. Sorry, of course I will talk and ask for it, Harvey replied, and going out on the balcony, called his partner, informing him that he would go to the construction site, but not with the whole team, but a couple of days later. Meanwhile, Leslie also decided to make a phone call to warn her mom about her decision. Hi, I hope you're still awake, Leslie asked, getting through to her mom. Hi, sweetie. No, I'm making pies for tomorrow, answered Catherine, working on sales from morning till late afternoon. I have good news for you, said the daughter, intrigued grandmother. What is it? The woman inquired. Right after Ariana's birthday, we are coming to your place. Collia's crew has been hired to build a country cottage, so we'll stay with you for a couple of months. I hope you don't mind. I'm all for it. That's wonderful news. Finally, I can play with my granddaughter, answered the happy grandmother, who saw Ariana not as often as she wanted because of the not quite well-formed relationship with her son-in-law. Great. Are you coming over tomorrow or what? I thought maybe I will not come to the celebration, so as not to drive here and there and wait for you at home. Cooking something special? Asked Catherine, realizing that 2 days in a row on the road for her too hard. Are you sure that would be better? Leslie decided to clarify. Yes, I'll be waiting for you to visit, answered her mother. Good, agreed Leslie, and summarizing the conversation, talked to her husband, telling him about the conversation with her mom. Although Harvey didn't say it openly, he was happy that his mother-in-law wouldn't come because he didn't want to see her, let alone talk to her. Having made a menu and a list of necessary products, Leslie sent her husband to the nearest supermarket to buy everything he needed to prepare dinner. As soon as Harvey left, Leslie was shopping for a baby girl in the bathroom and, using her free minute, decided to call her in-laws to invite them to a family dinner in honor of Ariana's birthday. Hello, Selena. How are you? I hope I'm not interrupting. Hello, Leslie. No, you're not. I'm home now, so I'm fine. Did you want something or did you just miss me? My mother-in-law asked. The day after tomorrow is Ariana's birthday, and we decided to organize a small family dinner. I thought Harvey said that he had to leave for the construction of a cottage in the country, replied the woman who had recently spoken to her son. Yes, that's right, but we thought he'd be gone for a few days. We wanted to invite you to our place and hope that you and Victor Stepanovich will not refuse, said Leslie, inviting her in-laws to visit. Yes, we will definitely come. What time will you wait for us? Selena decided to clarify. Let's come closer to 2. Ariana will just finish her afternoon nap and you can play with her, said Leslie. Okay, agreed. Summarized the conversation mother-in-law. A couple of days later, the Stone family gathered around the festive table, starting the feast with solemn speeches and toasts in honor of the little birthday girl. Ariana did not understand much, but was genuinely happy because she received a bunch of gifts with which to play and have fun. The grandfather and grandmother were happy about her granddaughter's first birthday, so they made not one but several presents, which pleased Ariana, who loved to open boxes in search of something interesting. The next morning after a festive dinner, Harvey, having packed all his things and said goodbye to his wife and daughter, left for a construction site outside the city. Leslie also did not put off the trip in a long box and, after packing her daughter's things, went to the train station to leave to visit her mother. Seeing her daughter and granddaughter on the threshold of the house, Catherine was sincerely happy. Having fed the long-awaited guests, the grandmother did not forget about the birthday and also pleased the little girl with gifts, raising her mood. Every day of summer was interesting for Ariana, full of bright and unexpected events, and from this became special and memorable. The little girl, who grew up in a noisy city, was happy to see flowers, breathing in the fragrance of each of them. Walking with her grandmother, she noticed many big and small animals, some scaring her, and others causing laughter and delight. Ariana especially liked the goats and cows because they were so calm, but at the same time serious. She was even more pleased with her grandmother's red cat named Oliver, who played with her from morning till evening. So unnoticeably passed most of the summer, during which Ariana began to speak more coherently and clearly, which made life easier for both Leslie and her mother. Running around the yard with the cat, the little girl explored the world around her and, noticing bugs and spiders, was not frightened of them as on the first day, but scrutinized them closely, trying to play with them and help them if they rolled over on their backs. On one of these days, full of bright emotions and children's laughter, Ariana saw a strange woman outside the wicket, gazing at her. Frightened, the little girl ran into the house to tell her mother. "Mommy, Mommy, there's Auntie," said Ariana, pointing her finger outside. "Oh, Cindy, hello. It's been a long time," said Leslie, coming outside and seeing her neighbor. "Hello, Leslie. Is that your big daughter?" the neighbor asked, pointing to the little girl hiding behind her mother's leg. "Yes, this is my Ariana," said Leslie, and taking a step to the side, introduced her daughter to her mom's neighbor. "So pretty, just like her mom," Cindy said with a smile on her face as she admired the blue-eyed little girl with white curly hair. Hearing this, Ariana was embarrassed and hugged her tightly around her neck, asking for her mom's arms. "Don't be afraid, it's Grandma's neighbor. When I was as little as you, she used to play with me all the time," Leslie said, reassuring her daughter, who didn't trust strangers. "Where's Mommy?" the neighbor asked. "Mom's at the station. She'll be there in about an hour," Leslie replied. "Okay, I'll come back later," Cindy replied and went home. A couple of hours later, she visited again and not only met her friend who had returned from the station, but also gave Ariana a small toy to make her feel at ease and earn her trust. Taking the toy, the girl not only thanked the neighbor, hugging her tightly around the neck, but also offered to play with her favorite cat, Oliver. So unnoticeably for Leslie and passed 2 more years of life, which she spent with the child. Realizing that the maternity leave was coming to an end, Leslie turned to the nearest kindergarten to register the baby girl. Having settled all the questions and difficult moments, she decided to get acquainted with the future teacher of Ariana, because this is the person who will spend a lot of time with her, continuing the upbringing of the baby girl. Descending from the principal's office to the first floor, Leslie noticed a short woman of about 50 years old, perfectly matching the description given to her by the principal. "Hello, I'm looking for Casey." Hello. It's me. What do you want?" A nice woman with a pleasant smile. "I registered my daughter in your kindergarten, and I was told that you will be Ariana's teacher. She is a good girl and will not cause any problems, but could you be gentler to her?" asked Leslie, afraid that the girl will be unaccustomed to the new environment. "Don't worry, I have over 20 years of experience, and during this time, no one has ever complained. Rest assured, your daughter is in good hands and no one will hurt her," replied Casey, deciding to reassure the worried mom. "Well, I hope so. If there are any difficulties, you call me," said Leslie, and, taking out of her bag a notebook and pen, left the educator's cell phone number for quick communication. "Yes, it's a deal. You're sorry, but I have to go. There are still a lot of things to do," politely said a nice woman, and saying goodbye to Leslie, went to the other end of the corridor. A few days later, Leslie takes the little girl to the daycare center for the first time, hoping that she will quickly adapt to the new conditions and perhaps be able to make friends. Having told her how to behave, Leslie entrusted Ariana to the teacher, and noticing that the girl does not cry and behaves calmly enough, went to look for a job. Realizing that she had no profile and even less higher education, Leslie immediately discarded interesting and highly paid jobs, focusing on simpler and more modest offers. After calling several numbers and getting to one of the interviews, the young woman was disappointed because she was rejected for various and, it would seem, completely far-fetched reasons. Disappointed and realizing that the day was wasted, Leslie decides to remember that she has a husband and a small child to whom you need to continue to pay attention. On the way home, the woman decided to go to the market to buy fresh food, and having already taken a bag and paid the seller, noticed an ad. One of the owners of the outlets is looking for a part-time vegetable seller. Thinking it was perfect, Leslie decided not to waste any time, and moving away from the counter a little, took out her phone to call the ad. "Hello, I'm on the ad. Do you still need a salesperson?" Leslie asked, dialing the number listed on the ad. "Good afternoon, yes, the information is still up to date." "That's great. When could we meet?" "I'm at the market for another hour, but I don't think you'll make it. Maybe we could meet tomorrow," the owner of the vegetable stand asked. No, I'm at the market now, so I can only come up in a couple of minutes," replied Leslie, realizing that she might miss quite a good workplace. "Oh, even so. Well, then you need to come to the 17 place. I'll be waiting for you," replied a nice and pleasant woman, summarizing the conversation. Having looked around, Leslie approached the nearest salesman and, having oriented herself on the terrain, went to meet her potential employer. Spotting the coveted 17 sign, Leslie saw a pretty woman serving another customer. Waiting until she was free, Leslie was afraid every minute that someone might come or call and take the job right out from under her nose. "Hello again, I called you a few minutes ago," said Leslie, waiting for the right moment. "You're the one who wants to work for me, right?" The woman clarified. "Yes, if that's possible." "My name is Nancy," said the owner of the grocery store. "And I'm Leslie," the young woman replied. "As it was written, I need a part-time employee, so I am ready to consider even a person with no experience," said Nancy, and after getting to know Leslie a little, decided to hire her, realizing that a young mother could use every penny. "Thank you so much. I promise I won't let you down," thanked Leslie, realizing that she couldn't find another job right now. "You're welcome. I think you can go to work tomorrow. I will show you everything quickly, explain. I think that you will not be confused. The work here is not tricky. The main thing is to watch the customers, so that no one stole anything." "Okay, I'll do my best," replied Leslie, and remembering that she had to pick up her little girl from kindergarten, said goodbye to her new employer. After picking up Ariana and returning home, Leslie hurried to the kitchen to prepare dinner before her husband got home from work. When she heard the front door slam, she realized that Harvey had already arrived and, having finished preparing the main course, hurried into the hallway to meet her husband and prepare him for the important and, as she thought, pleasant news. "Hi, sweetheart. How are you?" "Are you tired?" Leslie asked, meeting her husband in the hallway. "Hi, what do you think?" "Tired, of course. I was at work," Harvey replied with a slight reproach to his wife. "I understand. I just cooked dinner there. Let's go to the table," replied the wife, inviting her husband into the kitchen. "Come on, let's go and see what you have prepared." "By the way, I have good news," said Leslie, hoping that her husband will become a little softer and kinder. "What is it?" Harvey asked reluctantly. "I got a job and tomorrow I have my first day of work," said the woman solemnly, hoping that her husband will appreciate her act. "And what will you be working as?" "A vegetable vendor at the market. Not full-time for now, since Ariana goes to kindergarten, but in time I will be able to stand more to increase my income." "Yeah, I thought it would be good," Harvey replied disappointedly. "You shouldn't be so. Now any penny is not superfluous, so that the money will be easier," replied the wife, trying to find understanding in the eyes of her husband. "Well, let it be so. It's up to you," replied the husband, not getting into the desires and attempts of his wife to improve their financial situation. The first working week was not easy, but Leslie gradually began to get used to the conditions and people around her from morning until lunchtime. Most of the salespeople turned out to be very pleasant and interesting people, but there were some who were better to stay away from. The customers were also different. Some smiled sincerely and did not always take the change, while others counted every ruble and looked at Leslie with such contempt, as if she was guilty of something in front of them. Another working day came to an end, and having freed herself, Leslie went to the kindergarten to pick up her daughter. Mommy, Ariana started calling for her mom, tugging on her arm on the way home. "What, daughter? Do you want something?" Leslie asked, trying never to deny her anything. "I wanted to tell you that today I made friends with a girl from my group. Mashka is so funny. We played together with her all day today," said the little girl enthusiastically, which pleased Leslie. "I hope Maria is a good girl and the teacher does not swear at her." Asked the mother to find out how good her daughter has a new friend. "No, she never swears at her. Maria is very nice and helpful, but the boys don't like her," Ariana answered. "Why?" "Because she fights with them if someone tries to pull her pigtails or take away her food during lunch." Fighting is not good, though in general she is doing the right thing. Because you have to fight for your own, said Leslie, regretting the last words, as she tries to bring up her daughter, a nice and kind girl. A few months pass, and the kindergarten is preparing for the new year. Trying not to let her daughter down, Leslie prepares a special New Year's costume for the little girl, which she decided to sew herself in order to save money and not to anger her husband, who has been counting every penny lately. Having decided that the costume would be better to lie at home, Leslie took the little girl to the kindergarten, promising that she would bring the outfit closer to the matinee, which begins closer to lunchtime. After entrusting Ariana to the teacher, Leslie ran off to the market with the hope that she would be able to talk to the supervisor and get an early dismissal. When she met Nancy, Leslie didn't have time to say a word to her, as she was a few minutes late, forcing her to serve several customers. After apologizing for her tardiness, Leslie went behind the counter, not expecting New Year's Eve to be a salesperson's hell. In a couple of hours, she had served more customers than she had in the last week. With each passing minute, the woman realized that the chances of getting off early were melting away like snow on a warm palm, but she couldn't disappoint her daughter and was ready for extreme measures just to get to the children's matinee. "Nancy, will you give me 1 minute?" asked Leslie as soon as the owner of the outlet arrived to restock the vegetables. "Make it quick. You see there are a lot of people today and every minute is worth its weight in gold," replied the supervisor. "I wanted to ask if I could ask to leave a little earlier than usual," Leslie asked, anticipating Nancy's displeasure. "Are you kidding me? It's New Year's Eve. You see how many customers there are today, and you want me to stand behind the counter for you. I understand, I'm sorry, but I have a little girl and she has a matinee today. I promised her I'd bring her costume and see her perform. I promise I'll make it up to her and work more, but not today." Leslie explained her request, hoping her boss would see her point. What an employee. "Okay, go ahead. The child is sacred, but keep in mind that tomorrow you will work a couple hours longer," replied Nancy. "Okay, tomorrow my husband has the day off, so he will pick up his daughter from kindergarten, and I will work longer," agreed Leslie, and after saying goodbye to the boss, ran out of the market, going home to get an outfit for the baby. Noticing that she was running a little late, the woman with the snowflake costume caught a cab and, spending a little, did her best to meet Ariana's expectations. Once at the daycare center, Leslie headed to the little girl's group to help her change into her snowflake costume and repeat a little text one more time before she headed to the stage. Fingers crossed and wishing the little girl luck, Leslie returned to the other parents in the audience, eagerly awaiting her daughter's performance. Santa Claus not only praised Ariana for her expressively told poem, but also gave the little girl a beautiful doll for the most original and beautiful costume. In the evening, Leslie and her daughter return home and, after waiting for Harvey from work, talk about how their day went. The little girl brags about the doll, but the father is very tired and does not show much interest in the toy, paying attention only to the fact that it is a really expensive gift. In the evening, as soon as Ariana fell asleep, Leslie tells her husband that she had to leave early and tomorrow he has to take the little girl to kindergarten and take her home in the afternoon. Harvey is not very pleased with this, because he wanted to meet with a colleague and go to the bath, but agreed to give time to his daughter, realizing that this is not a whim of his wife, but a necessity. At the same time, he reminds that in a couple of days New Year's Eve and it would be nice to organize a family dinner. Listening to her husband's opinion, Leslie called both her mother and Harvey's parents, inviting them to her house for the holiday. On December 31st, everyone came to spend time with the family and celebrate the new year, delighting Ariana with new gifts and toys that could create a special holiday atmosphere for her. After the chimes struck, the family headed downtown to watch the fireworks and have fun. Realizing that in the next couple of days there will be no return train, Catherine lingers in the guests, devoting all the time to her granddaughter. Ariana is sincerely happy that her grandmother stayed and visited them and even offers her to live with them, but Catherine explains that this is impossible because she also needs to work. Relations between son-in-law and mother-in-law remain cold, so they try to minimize communication, only saying hello in the morning during breakfast and discussing neutral topics or Ariana's kindergarten. A couple of days later, Catherine, having bought a ticket home, says goodbye to her daughter and granddaughter, returning to her village. New Year's holidays are coming to an end, and Leslie, who received a few days off from her boss, returns to work. Her husband decided to continue his vacation and, due to the lack of normal orders, took a vacation. Taking advantage of this, Leslie entrusts Ariana to her husband to stay at home with her, as the kindergarten has declared a small quarantine. Trying to remember what a caring and attentive father is, Harvey spends all this time with the baby, playing with dolls and all the games Ariana offers him. So imperceptibly for both of them passes a few days without mom, selling at the market. After another day of work, Leslie comes home, and when she meets her husband in the kitchen, she sees that he is in absolutely no mood. "Hi, why are you so sad? What's wrong?" excitedly asked his wife. "Hi, yes, something's wrong. Ariana is behaving strangely, constantly naughty, crying and capricious, refuses to play and eat," complained Harvey to his wife. "Strange, it's not like her at all," Leslie noted in surprise. "And yet it is. If this continues, I'd better go to work, and you yourself here with her, sit with her," said the husband, tired during the day with his daughter more than on the construction site. "I guess you're right about something. I'll have to give Ariana time tomorrow to visit the pediatric clinic." "I don't like it all. I need to check if she's okay," replied the worried mother. Deciding not to put everything in a long box, Leslie called Zinaida Kirilovna and, telling about the behavior and bad mood of her daughter, asked for a couple of hours to go with the baby to the children's clinic. In the morning, mother and daughter went to see the doctor, who after a thorough check reassured Leslie, saying that Ariana has a small cold and there is no reason to worry. After prescribing medication, the doctor asked to keep the little girl at home for a few more days, as she has a weak immune system and it is best to keep her on bed rest. After the treatment and Ariana's recovery, each day Leslie was not much different from the previous one. In the morning and until lunch, she disappeared to the market, then spent time with her daughter and did everything around the house while waiting for her husband, who was always late at work. Another working day was not like the previous ones, because Leslie managed to spoil the mood from the very morning. Having served the next customer, Leslie began to stack the goods, as suddenly noticed that the man was not satisfied with something. "What's wrong?" the vegetable seller asked politely. "Yes, something wrong. You cheated and stole from me," the customer said loudly to get attention. "What are you talking about? I didn't cheat anyone and I sell vegetables honestly," Leslie objected. "You're going to start being rude to me. You think I'm lying? Now I will call the police and you will know how to cheat poor people," continued the man, making a scandal for the whole market. "Man, let me help you." A merchant from a neighboring point offered to help, wanting to resolve the conflict situation. "How can you help me?" the buyer asked incredulously. "Let's check your purchases on my scales. Here, look, they are absolutely serviceable," said the seller, confirming his words with the help of weights with the weight indicated on the side. "Go ahead, check it," the man replied and handed over the bag of groceries. "As you noticed, she didn't weigh you, but she put an extra apple, according to my scales," said the seller, who decided to stand up for Leslie and prove her innocence. "Okay, everything is clear. Give me the package," said the man, and realizing that he made a scandal on an empty place, reluctantly apologized to Leslie, barely holding back tears. As soon as the harmful man left, the seller from the neighboring point calmed down the inexperienced saleswoman, explaining that such things happen here all over the place, so it is necessary to treat such customers more calmly, proving their wrongness visually. Adhering to the advice of the seller, who became not only a neighbor at the outlets, but also a good comrade, Leslie quickly learned to communicate with boorish and something dissatisfied customers trying to find their own benefit. In just a couple of months, she was able to change her character and become less soft, forgetting about such a concept as gullibility. Slowly, the work got better, and Leslie had fewer and fewer problems that required anyone's intervention. One day at the end of the working day, she heard a phone call and, looking in her bag, saw that it was a kindergarten teacher calling her. "Hello, Casey. Is there an emergency?" "Hi, Leslie. I don't know how to say and where to begin, but I have not the most pleasant news for you," the teacher began timidly, trying to find the right words. "What happened?" Leslie asked anxiously, realizing that it was about her daughter. "You see, it happened accidentally. It's nobody's fault, and it happens," Casey tried to justify herself. Can you tell me what happened there? Once again asked the worried Leslie, not hearing the answer to her question. The children were playing in the yard and one of the boys accidentally pushed Ariana. She fell down and lost consciousness, although she did not hit anything, said the teacher, realizing what the mother's reaction would be. I'll be right there, the mother replied, and hanging up the phone, ran to the kindergarten. Meeting with the teacher, Leslie found out that the little girl is in the nurse's office. Hello, what's wrong with my daughter? Leslie asked, seeing the nurse in her office. Don't worry, she's fine. The baby was hit hard during the fall and her nose was bleeding. We've stopped the bleeding now and she's resting on the couch, the nurse said and pointed to Ariana, who was dozing off. Did you call the doctor? Did he examine my daughter? Don't worry, that won't be necessary. We have no reason to panic because this happens all the time in kindergarten. Children's pranks sometimes end up like this, but you should not take it so personally, said the nurse, reassuring Leslie. The woman didn't really want to listen to the nurse's advice, and after taking Ariana home, she went to the hospital the next morning to have a doctor look at her. The doctor confirmed that there was no danger and the little girl had just taken a hard hit during the fall. Time passes and this story seems to be left behind in the past. As Leslie continues to work, she doesn't notice how time passes and her daughter grows up before her eyes. Realizing that another summer is approaching, the woman decides to call her mother to talk to her and tell her the good news. Hi, Mom. How are you? Leslie asked after getting through to her mom. Hi, sweetie. I'm fine. How are you? Catherine answered. We are also all well and I have good news for you. What is it? Ariana's kindergarten is left behind and as I think, she needs to rest a little and gain strength before the first class. How would you feel about us coming to visit you in a couple days? Oh, I'd love to. Come visit, of course, Grandma replied cheerfully, realizing that Leslie wanted to keep Ariana with her for the rest of the summer. A few days later, Leslie arrives in the village with her daughter and spends time with her mother, talking about her work at the market and her husband's success. Realizing that it is time for her to return to the city, Leslie informs Ariana that she is staying with her grandmother. The little girl is genuinely saying goodbye to her daughter and mother. Leslie returns to the city, continuing to work and give her husband all her free time. Grandma, realizing that she has a great responsibility, allows the little girl to rest, enjoying life in the village. At the same time, Catherine realizes that Ariana must be ready for school, so every evening she checks the little girl's knowledge and, noticing her interest in cooking, introduces her to cooking. In just a couple of weeks, Ariana turns into a real helper, able to fulfill any possible request. In her free time, the little girl runs away to a neighbor to look at the rabbits, which Cindy breeds. Catherine sees how Ariana tries to help her in everything. Determined to thank her granddaughter, her grandmother decides to help her get ready for school and earn a little money by selling fruits and vegetables at the railroad station. After harvesting a small crop and preparing it for sale, Catherine goes to her neighbor to talk to her and ask her to look after her granddaughter while she is at the station. Cindy gladly looks after the little girl, as she is a very sweet, kind, and cheerful girl. The woman has no grandchildren of her own, so she treats Ariana with all her heart, letting her play with the rabbits and spoiling her with homemade baked goods. The next morning, the grandmother is again going to the station and, having agreed in advance with the neighbor, calls the little girl to get ready to visit Cindy. Alianushka, will you sit with Cindy today? Grandma asked. Maybe I'd better stay home. I don't feel well. I don't feel like getting out of bed or going out, she said, complaining of weakness. Do you have any pain? Catherine asked excitedly. No, I just don't want anything, answered Ariana. Noticing that her granddaughter is really sluggish, the grandmother decides not to go anywhere and stays at home. The first half of the day, the little girl practically did not get out of bed, but closer to lunch, she started to run around the yard, which pleased the frightened grandmother. At the same time, Ariana refused lunch and decided to run to Cindy's house to play with the bunnies again. Not a few minutes later, Catherine heard her neighbor screaming. Strongly frightened, the grandmother hurries to the neighbor's yard and sees the little girl, unconscious in the middle of the yard. What's wrong with her? Did she fall? Catherine asked, running up to Ariana and lifted her head. I don't know, I didn't see anything. She seemed to be playing, and then I went out into the yard and saw her on the ground, answered an equally frightened Cindy. Focusing on the little girl, the grandmother and neighbor brought Ariana to her senses. Realizing that something was obviously wrong with her, Cindy decided to call the village paramedic and, leaving her grandmother with her granddaughter, ran to call for help. "How are you feeling? What happened?" Catherine asked Ariana. "I don't know, I was just walking and I got dizzy abruptly," replied the little girl, who was very frightened that she had fainted. A few minutes later, Cindy returned with a paramedic. After examining the girl, the woman didn't notice anything suspicious in Ariana's condition or behavior. The paramedic decided that the little girl had overheated in the sun and the loss of consciousness was the result of heat stroke. After giving her recommendations, the woman left and told them to call her for help if anything like this happened again. "Should we call Leslie and tell her what happened?" Catherine asked her neighbor. "Why? You don't need to do that. Heat stroke is not so terrible, and so you will scare her badly. They'll take her granddaughter away, saying that she didn't look after her," Cindy replied, dissuading her neighbor from making unnecessary phone calls. On the eve of September 1, Harvey and Leslie take Ariana home. Seeing the children off, Catherine gave her daughter an envelope of money, asking her to buy everything she needed for the little girl. Upon arrival home, "Hello. As I understand it, you will be our daughter's first teacher?" Leslie asked, having met the woman gathering around her first graders. "Hello, yes. My name is Nellie," the woman replied, formally introducing herself to one of the parents of her students. "If you have any comments about Ariana or her studies, don't hesitate to speak directly about it," Leslie said, afraid that the little girl would not be able to cope with the load. "I will. You do not worry, I can find an approach to each child, and I am sure that I will not have any problems with your daughter," the teacher reassured the mother, realizing that she is not the first and not the last. The 1st of September was left behind, and as it seemed to Leslie, her daughter was not very satisfied with the first day of school. Realizing that the little girl should be given some time, the woman didn't interrogate her daughter to try to find out if she liked everything, and if not, what exactly. For several weeks, Leslie was focused on work, trying not to let down Nancy, who had placed her trust and the opportunity to earn a little extra money. After another day of work, the woman headed to the school to pick up her baby girl and decided it was a good time to talk to her. "How are you doing at school? Are you doing well? No one hurts you?" Leslie asked, hoping to help her daughter with any problems. "Everything is good. I like studying. No one hurts me." "Oh, so many friends. That's good. What do you know about them?" asked the mother, trying to find out more about her daughter's new friends. "Mickey and I sit at the same desk, and he protects me if someone wants to pull my braid. With Betty, we play ball together in gym class, and Mallory is just a very interesting and funny girl with whom we chat at recess," answered Ariana, telling a little about each of the classmates with whom they were able to make friends. "Friends are good," replied Leslie cheerfully, realizing that her daughter was doing well. On one of the usual weekdays, Leslie comes to school again to pick up her little girl. After waiting for the end of the last lesson, the woman helps her daughter to get ready and tries to find out how her day went. Ariana does not say anything and does not want to tell about what happened today. Leslie is embarrassed by this, but she realizes that anything could have happened at school, and it's quite possible that her daughter will tell her about everything, but a little later. Getting ready to leave the classroom, Leslie meets Antonina Vladimirovna on the threshold, blocking her way. "Hello. We need to talk and preferably do it in private," said the school teacher. "Hello. Okay, let's talk," replied Leslie, and leaving the girl in the classroom, went out with the teacher into the corridor. "I apologize for not talking about the most pleasant things, but I just have to report what happened today," began the class teacher. "Did Ariana do something wrong?" Leslie asked with concern in her voice. No, she is behaving very well. That's not what I mean. Today, Alina was very bad, and when I called her to the blackboard, she got dizzy. The girl almost fainted, and I managed to pick her up at the last moment. I took her to the school nurse, and I think you have something to talk about," said a worried Nellie, realizing that the child has some health problems. After listening to the class teacher, Leslie was scared out of her wits. When she returned to the classroom, she asked Ariana to wait for her for a few more minutes, as she had an urgent matter to attend to. Leaving her daughter in the classroom, Leslie headed to the nurse's office to talk to her and find out what was wrong. "Hello, I'm Ariana's mom, and I was asked to come in." "Hello, my name is Julian," the older woman answered. "So what's going on with my daughter?" "Have a seat. We're going to have a short but serious conversation. Can you say something of substance?" Leslie asked, raising her voice a little, worried about her daughter's health. "Yes, but first I would like to know if Alina has had similar cases before. Did she feel faint or faint?" asked the experienced nurse, who had spent her entire life in medicine. "There was a similar case in kindergarten, but then she was pushed and hit hard," Leslie answered, recalling an incident that happened to her daughter a few years ago. "I don't want to scare you with my assumptions, but it shouldn't be like this. I recommend that you see a doctor, because only after a thorough analysis will it be possible to determine what is wrong." "I hope I'm wrong, but my assumptions scare me," Julian replied, deciding not to speak of her guesses prematurely. Back in the classroom, Leslie picked up her daughter and watched the little girl closely on the way home, asking repeatedly how she was feeling. Ariana felt quite well, was cheerful, which in this situation was a little alarming. Realizing that what had happened during the day was an alarming signal, Leslie decided to call her mother to consult with her. "Ariana almost passed out today. I hope she's okay," Catherine asked worriedly. "Now, yes, but the nurse recommended me to see a doctor and asked if there were any similar cases," replied her daughter. "I did not want to tell you, but in the summer in the village there was a similar case. The paramedics said it was heat stroke, but now I think it was something more serious," the grandmother admitted, realizing that her granddaughter was not quite healthy. After talking to her mother, Leslie was finally convinced that it was worse than she had realized. Waiting for Harvey from work, she told him about everything and asked her husband for some money to visit the clinic and take tests to check her daughter's condition. The next morning, Leslie and Ariana go to the polyclinic to take all the necessary tests. A couple of days later, the doctor calls Leslie and asks her to come to the hospital as he has disappointing results. Badly frightened, Leslie excused herself from work at Nancy's and, putting aside all business, went to the hospital. "Hello, you wanted to see me?" Leslie asked, knocking on the doctor's office and opening the door to peek inside. "Are you Ariana's mom?" a sullen man in a white coat asked. "Yes, that's right." "Sit down, we need to talk," Barry replied, introducing himself as Leslie. "What's wrong with my daughter?" Leslie asked fearfully, realizing that something was obviously wrong. "I won't bother with details and long explanations, as you only need to know the main thing. Your daughter has a severe form of anemia and will need surgery. The sooner it is done, the better, but this operation costs a lot of money." "How much money is needed?" Leslie asked, realizing that she had to raise money for the operation to save her daughter. Having found out the necessary amount, she wanted to leave the doctor's office, but he reminded her that it would be better for the girl to come to the hospital to be under the care of doctors, because over time the symptoms could worsen and it would lead to dire consequences. Frightened, Leslie rushed to school, and after picking up her daughter from class, she drove home to pack and take the little girl to the hospital. Upon returning home, Leslie waited for her husband and, without putting the dialogue on hold, told him about the dialogue with the doctor. After soberly assessing their financial situation, they realized that there was no such money and it was almost impossible to get it. Taking a few moments to pause for thought, Harvey remembered a former colleague with whom they had built a country cottage a few years ago. "Hello, John. Recognize him?" It was Harvey Stone, said Harvey, having reached an old acquaintance. "Hi, yes, of course I recognize him. How are you? How's the family?" John asked. "It's bad, that's why I'm calling. I'm sorry to cut to the chase, but the situation is urgent. My daughter is very sick and needs money for an operation. Is there anything you can do to help with the finances?" "Well, I don't have much money to lend, and the money I do have won't help you. But as they say, I can give you a fishing rod. I am now sent to build a cottage village in Finland, and if you want, you can come with me. The money there is more than decent, so enough for the operation and recovery. I need to think about it. Let me check with my wife and call you back in a few minutes, okay?" "Yes, no problem," John replied, letting Harvey talk to Leslie. After discussing the possibility of earning money, the wife supported her husband and told him to go along with it, as they couldn't waste precious time and had no other ideas. Calling back his friend, Harvey said that he was ready to go with him and agreed in advance on the place and time of the meeting. A couple of days later, the man packs his things and after checking his daughter in the hospital, leaves with a friend to Finland. Meanwhile, Leslie's parents come to Leslie's house to support the heartbroken Leslie. Selena and Victor are warm to their son's wife and are ready to help her in every possible way, and also want to visit their granddaughter to brighten up her stay in the hospital. A couple of weeks later, Harvey sends the first money, which Leslie spends on medicine, food, and other related expenses. "Hi, sweetheart. How are you?" Harvey asked, calling his wife. "Hi, slowly. I went to Ariana's today. How's she feeling?" Not great. The doctors support her and your parents visit her all the time, but she realizes that she's in the hospital for a reason and she's very sad about it. As for her well-being, there is also a disappointing prognosis, Leslie replied disappointedly, hardly holding back her tears. "Calm down. Everything will be fine. In a couple of months, I will send the money. Besides, a friend promised to lend all that he will earn in the meantime. If everything goes well, the next transfer will be enough to cover half of the money needed for treatment. I hope it does. I can't even think about the fact that we won't be able to help her," Leslie replied and burst into tears, realizing that her daughter is very sick. "Don't worry, I will do everything to get her back on her feet," Harvey replied, supporting his spouse. Continuing to call daily, Harvey promised his wife that he would soon transfer the money needed for the operation. Gradually, the calls became shorter and shorter, and eventually the husband began to call less and less often, explaining that he was very busy at work. A couple of months passed, but Harvey did not transfer the salary. Worried about the condition of her daughter, Leslie called her husband, but his phone was turned off. The woman tried to call Harvey for a few more days, but he never got in touch. "Hello, Selena. Harvey did not call you?" Leslie asked, calling her husband's parents. "Hello, Leslie. No, we haven't talked to him for a week," answered her mother-in-law. "It's strange. He promised to transfer the money and he doesn't contact," answered the worried Leslie. Realizing that her parents knew nothing, she continued to look for a way to contact her husband. Finding John's number in her contact list, Leslie called her husband's friend. "Hello, John. This is Leslie Stone. Is my husband there by any chance next to you?" "Hi, no, we haven't seen him in a week," John answered. "What do you mean? Don't you two work at the same facility? You don't know anything?" The man asked in surprise. "What do you mean? What do you mean?" Leslie asked, not knowing what he was talking about. "Your husband has another woman and they have been living together for a month. The construction ended a week ago, but he decided to stay here." Shocked, Leslie hung up the phone without answering a word. She did not expect such a betrayal from her husband and realized that there would be no money for the operation. The next morning, having gathered her thoughts and calmed down a bit, Leslie goes to the hospital to talk to the doctor and tell him about the situation. "Hello, Barry. We need to talk." "Hello, Leslie. Is something wrong? Your face is completely gone." "The thing is, my husband promised me money and went to work in another country. I thought something was wrong, but it turns out he just found someone else. I don't know how to find money for the operation," Leslie replied, telling me everything that had happened recently. "That's awful. What about the surgery now?" the doctor asked. "I don't know. Help me, please," Leslie replied pathetically, begging Barry to do something to help her. "Well, I'll try to find a way to do the operation for free. Come and see me in a couple of days and I'll try to work it out in the meantime." "Thank you very much. I'm counting on you very much," Leslie replied, and without taking time away from the doctor, went to her daughter's room to check on the baby. Hardly coping with work, Leslie cannot stop thinking about the betrayal of her husband and thinks about where to find the money for the operation. Returning home, she hears the phone ringing and grabbing the phone, sees that her husband is calling her. "Hello, I take it you already know everything," said Harvey, talking to his friend. "Well, hello. Yes, John told me everything. How could you do that?" Leslie asked, hoping her husband would explain what he'd done. "I'm sorry, but I found a beautiful woman with whom I fell in love and decided to start a new family. We'll be back home in a couple months, so get out of the apartment. Are you kicking me out? No, I'm giving you time and opportunity to find another place to live. What about our daughter? I'm sorry, but I have other things on my mind right now. I'm divorcing you, so I do not want to discuss anything else, Harvey replied, and not wanting to continue the conversation, hung up the phone. Crying, Leslie felt cheated and betrayed. Unable to hold it in, she decided to call her husband's parents to tell them about the last conversation with Harvey. Hello, Selena. Your son left me. He found another woman and wants to file for divorce. Leslie, are you serious? Interrogated mother-in-law, not believing that such a thing is really possible. Yes, he called me and said that between us everything is over and gave me 2 months to get out of the apartment. Forgive me and my husband for raising such an irresponsible son, said Selena, realizing that she had made a mistake in raising Harvey. It's not your fault. Apparently he just never loved me, replied Leslie, who did not think that his parents were guilty of anything. Don't worry, Victor and I won't turn our backs on you. Ariana is our granddaughter and we love you and will never leave you, replied the woman, calming the crying wife of her son. Thank you. Harvey promised money for Ariana's surgery and now it's gone and I don't know how to cure her. We would love to help financially, but my husband and I don't have that kind of savings, and we can't sell our son's apartment because we deeded it to him. It's okay, I understand. Can we visit our granddaughter? Selena asked, not knowing how Leslie would treat them after what had happened. Yes, of course, because she is your granddaughter and I dare not interfere with your communication, replied Leslie. The next morning, the woman in upset feelings goes to the hospital to meet again and talk to the doctor. Hello, Barry. I hope you can do something to please me. Leslie asked, expecting that the doctor had found an opportunity to perform the operation for free. Hello. Unfortunately, I didn't get anything. For the operation, we'll have to pay because it is a very complex procedure, which does not fall neither under the benefit programs nor under the sphere of influence of patrons. Having heard this, Leslie, without saying a word, left the doctor's office and went outside to breathe a breath of fresh air. I don't have that kind of money, she muttered and cried as she walked out of the hospital. It was the last chance to save her daughter, but she was gone too. Hello, why are you crying? Asked a homeless man who came up to the crying Leslie. Hello. Oh, I can't tell you in 2 words. I'm in no hurry, so I'm ready to listen to you, muttered a man with light gray hair, whose eyes showed that he was concerned about Leslie's mood. My daughter is very sick. She has a severe form of anemia. She needs surgery to save her. My husband promised to earn money, but having gone abroad, found himself another woman and left us. There is no hope of saving my daughter anymore, Leslie said and began to cry even harder. Do not cry. I'm sure that not everything is not so bad, because in addition to conventional doctors, there are other areas of medicine that can help your daughter without surgery. Are you some kind of sorcerer or something? Leslie asked incredulously, not understanding what the stranger was talking about. No, I am Austin, a simple man who knows how to cure such a disease. I'm sure I could help your daughter, but I don't know if you would approve of my methods. What methods? You see, my methods are unconventional and unrecognized by the medical profession. Many people consider it a pseudoscience and do not believe in the healing properties of plants. But I am convinced that nature hides an incredible power that can cure us of any disease. Can you really help my daughter? Asked a desperate Leslie, who decided to grab the last hope. I think so, answered the homeless man, who sincerely wanted to help the poor woman. Okay, I'll do it. What's it gonna take? You see, I'm a homeless man and I have nowhere to live or treat your little girl. It would be good to settle the matter, replied Austin confusedly. Wait a minute, replied Leslie, and taking a few steps aside, called her mother to tell her what had happened. After listening to the situation, Catherine not only understood her daughter, but also suggested that everyone move to her village because the house is big and there is enough space for everyone. Having finished talking to her, okay, but only for a little while since we're leaving, Leslie replied, accepting the invitation. After letting the grandparents play with their granddaughter, Leslie gave her husband's parents the keys to his apartment and seeing that it was time for her to leave, said goodbye to Victor and Selena, telling them that they were leaving for the country. Leslie doesn't mind her husband's parents socializing with their daughter and invites her to the village, but a little later, because Ariana will soon be undergoing treatment. Having met Austin near the hospital, Leslie ordered a cab to the train station and, having bought 3 tickets, went with her daughter and the healer to the village to her mother. "Hello, my name is Austin. Glad to meet you," said the homeless man, having met Leslie's mother. "Hello, it's mutual. My name is Catherine." The woman answered kindly and invited everyone into the house, having allocated a separate room for the healer. From the next morning, Austin took care of the little girl, thoroughly studying her and determining her condition. Having developed a treatment scheme and started the process of Ariana's recovery, the man immediately warned her mother and grandmother that the treatment process would be complicated and lengthy. At the same time, he convinced them that he knew how, and no less importantly, that he would be able to help the little girl because she had a young and strong body that could cope with this disease. Continuing to spend all of this time with the girl, Austin grows closer not only to her, but also to Leslie and her mom. In the evenings, after Leslie puts the baby girl to bed, they socialize in the kitchen, drinking tea and discussing the treatment process. Realizing that the women don't fully trust him, on one of these evenings, Austin decided to tell this story and explain why he became homeless. "Don't be afraid. I'm not a quack. It's just life," he began. "We trust you and count on you. What went wrong in your life?" Catherine asked, interested in Austin's past. "Once I had everything: a great job as a surgeon in a regional hospital, a beautiful wife, and a wonderful son. But in one moment, I lost it all." "What happened? If it's not a secret, I think you and Ariana should go into town and try to get tested again," Austin said during one of the tea parties. "I can see that she is much better, but do you really think she has recovered and the disease has receded?" Leslie asked. "The test will tell you more precisely, but I think that all the worst is over," answered the man who had changed a lot during this year. Constantly taking care of himself, the man became more neat and even younger visually. The only thing that gave away his age was the light gray hair that had crept into his beard and temples. "Good, we'll go to town tomorrow," Leslie said cheerfully, hoping Austin was right. In the morning, having packed all the necessary things, Leslie and her daughter left for town. Meanwhile, Catherine stayed on the farm and began to fiddle with the stove to prepare a delicious dinner for the return of her daughter and granddaughter. At some point, the woman noticed that Austin was acting strangely and as if he was very nervous. "Did you want something? Can I make you some tea or a sandwich?" Catherine asked politely. No, I don't need anything. I just wanted to talk to you, but I can't make up my mind," Austin said, embarrassed. "So let's talk while we are alone at home and no one disturbs us. I must confess that during this year I have grown very attached not only to Ariana, but also to your family. You become my nearest and dearest, and I've realized that I don't want to leave you for one more reason." "And what is this reason?" Catherine decided to clarify. "I like you very much," the man replied, looking at the woman directly in the eyes. "I also like you very much. Just this year, all my thoughts were busy with my daughter and granddaughter, and I chased away from myself warm feelings towards you," timidly replied the woman, admitting that their feelings are mutual. When they arrived in the city, Leslie and her daughter immediately went to the hospital and, meeting Barry, took a referral for tests. Having passed all the necessary procedures, they returned home. A couple of days later, the doctor calls Leslie and, with surprise in his voice, says that the baby is absolutely healthy. Hearing this, Leslie can't hold back tears of joy and rushes to her mom and Austin to share this joyful news. Running into the kitchen, she hugs the healer. "Thank you so much for saving my daughter. I owe you a debt of gratitude," said Leslie, not letting go of Austin. "What debts can we talk about when I did it for the people I care about?" the man replied. Not expecting to hear something like that, Leslie glanced questioningly at her mother and saw her blush and lower her eyes. "Mom, maybe there's something I don't know," Leslie asked. "We have good news for you two. Your mom and I have grown very attached and fond of each other," Austin said. "We have decided to live together as a family. I hope you don't mind," asked her mother, looking at Leslie. "How could I be against it? If Austin saved the life of the most precious and beloved person in the world, my Ariana," answered Leslie, hugging her daughter, who ran into the kitchen, and a happy tear rolled down her cheek.